Hello everybody. All right, so I thought I'd do a video on durability of oil pastel work. And I got a lot of different sample paintings out here. We're gonna kind of look through each one. I'm trying to make this a shorter video, but it might get a little long, but kind of want to talk about a few things when it comes to the durability of oil pastels and best ways to protect them, in my opinion. After the years I've been doing this, I think I found the best way to try to protect the oil pastel work. All right, so let's start off with this one. So this one was created in 2022, I think around October. So over a year ago, definitely. It's on an 18 by 24 wood panel. And you might have seen this one before in previous videos. It does have a varnish on it. If you can see that gloss, right? It's got a nice protective layer of varnish all over the painting. And I use this Kmart varnish, I believe, a gloss finish, but I put on a lot, so I can definitely rub my hands over it. No problem, nothing coming up on my fingers. Take a paintbrush handle, totally protected, like 100% bulletproof protection. All right. These varnishes, and this is one by Kmart, there's other ones I'm sure that are out there that'll work. These spray varnishes work really well for protecting oil pastel work. It just takes several coats, and you got to be patient, take your time with it, and it is smelly. This one's very smelly. It did smell and gas out for a few weeks after I sprayed it, but now it's totally neutral and completely and totally protected. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. I like these varnishes, I think, for the most part, as far as protecting oil pastel work. Doesn't really matter the surface. I just did this on wood panel, but it seems to be working out great. All right, now I want to show you some older stuff. I'm going to show you some works going back to 2018. Some that have been fixed and varnished, and some that are being totally left alone. Let's see what those look like. Okay, this one, this little train next to this river scene that I painted. This was back in let's see, 2020. So we're talking 3 years old on this piece right here. All right, and it is on paper. It's on Arches cold press oil paper, roughly about 12 by 17 size, and it's in this plastic sleeve. If you notice, it's in this plastic sleeve, which you can do. However, there's a trick. You can't just put oil pastel in plastic sleeve. You have to fix it first. You have to put a varnish on it or a final fixative on it. I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and we're just going to see what the surface is like. I got a bunch of these plastic sleeves. I probably put 100 or so of my works in these, and we're just going to pull this out and see what the surface is like. Okay, so if you can see the gloss on it, it does have a final fixative on it. I believe that's more of a matte finish. It's probably using this Krylon matte finish fixative on it, which I've used on several pieces. Seems to work okay. And it did take several coats. This is Sennelier right here. So over the scents, it takes many coats. I've had some take 12 to 15 coats of final fixative to finally get it to where I can rub my fingers off it like this and not get any color off. I'm getting a little bit here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty well protected. Not as good as that varnish though. I think the varnish offers a better protection, but this is pretty solid. There's a lot of texture down in here. I can kind of feel it with my fingers. And I'm just getting very minimal, very little bit of like of a dusting color coming up. So not too bad. I feel pretty good about it. Can take a paintbrush over it. No problem. Let's check the other side of the paper. You can see there's no oil bleed coming through the other side of the paper. This is why I like thick papers, because if you use the thinner papers, what happens is the oil from the oil pastel will bleed through to the other side and leave these big splotches. I have one here that's doing that, and I'll show you what that looks like. I mean, I don't like that. I like thick papers that can handle it. And this Arches cold press is good, thick paper. Very durable. This piece is super durable. Again, pretty well protected. Not as good as the varnish, but not bad. All right, so, and I've had it in this plastic sleeve forever, and just been sitting down in my cabinet with where all my other works. So let's see, I think I had it in this way. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this back. So I created this piece, let's see, I created it in 2020, 3 years old. Okay, so let's put it back in its sleeve. And because it's got that final fixative on it, I can put it in the sleeve. I definitely wouldn't want to do this if I didn't use a final fixative or varnish on oil pastel work, because if I put it in the sleeve, all the oil pastel is just going to smear all on the inside of the plastic sleeve. All right, but once you put a good several coats, like I said, some of them take 10, maybe even 15 layers of fixative or varnish to, you go over it and you let it dry for like 10 minutes and then do it again. And sometimes it takes 12 to 15 coats of doing that to be able to get it to where it's fully protected. All right, let's check another one. Okay, here's another one from 2020, and this is on a 12 by 18 piece of paper. I don't remember the name of the paper. And I just like the light and the palm trees here on this one. And it does have a gloss final fixative on it. So you can kind of see that glare. And I believe it wasn't varnish. I wasn't using varnish at this time. So this is a final fixative. Might have been using either Krylon or Sennelier fixative on it. But it's completely dry and pretty well protected here. Not getting any color coming up off the top. I did several coats on this to get full protection. But this is a thin paper, and I want to show you what the back of it looks like. I don't know if you can see the splotchiness, but you can see the oil starting to seep through the paper. You can see how it's darkened it, and the oil from the other side is starting to come through to this side here, and it's created these little blotches here. And this is, thinner paper, definitely thinner than what I'm used to using now. The only reason I like this was the 12 by 18. I like the wide format paper, but it just wasn't thick enough. So it's been 3 years, and this is what it's done. Not sure what it'll look like in 3 more years or 5 years or 20 years. Maybe it'll be worse, or maybe this is just the extent of it. But this is why I use thick paper, all right? This is the reason why I don't use thin papers anymore, for that reason. And it's not bad paper. I mean, it's pretty good. It does have this nice fixative on it. But I stay away from thin papers. So, but everything, it still looks good. Colors are still great. Of course, it's got that final fixative on it, so it's hold up pretty well. All right, let's check another one. All right, so now we're going back to 2019 on this piece right here. And it's on the Arches cold press oil paper, and I have it in this plastic sleeve. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out. We'll take a look at the surface. All right, and it does have a final fixative on it. Otherwise, I wouldn't put it into that sleeve. This is a matte finish fixative. I can tell there's not much gloss. Doesn't have the high gloss, but definitely protected. I can rub my fingers on it. Let's see if I got clean hands there. Pretty clean. I can rub it on here. And just minor color dusting coming up. Just very minor, not bad. All right, so held up pretty good. There's a lot of Sennelier white up here. I'm just getting very little bit on coming up on my finger when I rub it here. Like a little bit of this white dust here that comes up. So not too bad, definitely held up. And I believe I use a Krylon matte finish fixative on this one. And the other side of the paper, no blotchiness, no oil coming through. So Arches cold press oil paper, excellent paper for oil pastels. My second favorite, my number one favorite is pastel matte. Still pastel matte is the best for me. But this Arches stuff got more of a like a watercolor, more of a texture on the paper. So if you like texture paper, this Arches cold press oil paper, I'm sure they do a watercolor paper. I'm sure it's very similar. But this paper is excellent for oil pastels. And this is like a 12 by 17 size. So, and this is 2019. So a little over 4 years ago. Holding up great. Colors are great. Everything is good about this. Definitely am proud that I used the final fixative on this one. All right, let's check some more. Okay, so this one was created way back in 2018. Okay, so well over 5 years. And it's on Clairefontaine Pastel Matte. And this piece has never seen fixative. It doesn't have any kind of fixative on it. I just used oil pastel, and I used this glassine paper to wrap it in. As you can see, it's totally wrapped. And I taped it to the back here, completely protected. It's never been framed. It's never been exposed for a very long time to outside air. It's always just been in this wrapping. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Okay, so notice here on the inside of the glassine, I'm not getting a lot of oil pastel sticking. Now sometimes you'll see that with oil pastel work, is when you use glassine paper, when you take off the paper will kind of pull up a little color, but glassine paper is actually really excellent to use to protect your work. So this is 2018. Okay, this is a long time ago, and there's a lot of sennelier in here, and it is hardened up. Like, I'm surprised, even though it hasn't been exposed to the air, it is hardened up. I am getting a lot more color up when I rub my fingers across it like this. I can see some blue starting to come up, but as far as it setting up, it's decently hard. Now this is not protected, so there's no fixative on it whatsoever. There's a lot of suns in here. It's like that sun white that's really thick and creamy. And you can see if I put my fingers over it, I am getting some up. Right, never been exposed to the elements, the air, the outside world. It's always just been wrapped like this. Okay, and I can feel that there's still a little bit of you know, a little bit of sticky, but not much. And I can get some color off, but not bad. Not bad for never having a fixative on it. Okay, and this is on the pastel mat, so very thick paper, nice and durable. If I go to the other side here, there is no oil bleed coming to the other side. Pastel mat is like a light cardboard almost. It's almost like a little postcard, and it's very thick and durable. And it's still my number one paper of all time is the pastel mat. Okay, so 2018, always been behind the glassine paper, stored away, and it's set up pretty well. Although it's pretty fragile. I mean, I definitely, if I sit here and rub, I'll just start getting, my hands will start turning blue here. So don't want to do that too much. Okay, now I'm going to show you one more over here. I've never finished this painting. This is kind of the first part of it. I started it, and I'm going to clean my hands because I got a little blue on from that horse painting I just showed you. But I want to show you this one. This is a painting that I started, and it's gosh, it's around 2018, I think, roughly around that time. So it's well over, you know, it's about 5 years essentially. Okay, so I started this painting, and this is on what paper? This is Arches cold press oil paper. I can just tell by the feel of it. It's a good thick paper, right? So if I look here, the other side, there's no oil bleed on the other side. Right, so I started this, and this is where I left it at. And then I was working on a bunch of different paintings at once, and then I kind of just put this one aside, and I never came back to it. I just kind of forgot about it. It's been sitting way up there on top of those cabinets, just sitting flat like that, collecting a lot of dust, right? And I've always just left it up there, and it's been up there for about 5 years. So I just pulled it down just to take a look and see what was going on with it. You see the paper's kind of warped a little bit. Maybe because the sun was hitting on it for all those 5 years, but let's take a look at the surface. So this is oil pastel that's been exposed out to the air for 5 years. Okay, you can see I can take my hands, run it across, and I'm picking up some dust. It's probably dust because it's been collecting dust. That's probably what that is, because it's really like this yucky brown color. I'm not getting any of the colors off from the actual painting, so it's really dusty, but the color is pretty set up and hardened up pretty well. What I'm pulling off is just surface dust, but even back in here, this is mostly suns back in here, and it's pretty much hardened out. All right, so when oil pastel is exposed, when you have it exposed like this, after a few years, right, it just hardens out and is no longer wet. The only thing is that when you do rub your hands on it, you will get like this color dust coming up, but it won't be sticky and wet. Okay, and right now what I'm pulling off is just surface dust from being up there just completely bare for 5 years, but not bad, right? It takes several years for oil pastel to really set up and harden up. That's why I always like to try to, you know, use a varnish. Like this Kmart is pretty good. I've used this matte finish from Krylon many times. I've used this low odor clear finish. I have the gloss version, I also have the matte version. I've used this from Krylon many times. I've also fixed stuff with Sennelier's final fixative. I don't think this is a final fixative. I think it's more of a workable fixative, but I've used it as a final fixative. Right, and I've tried some other ones out there as well. But I kind of come back to this Kmart varnish. One problem is it's really stinky and smelly, so definitely want to do these things outside when you're spraying. And I usually spend a good half day, maybe even a full day, just really fixing and taking my time to get it to final protection. But hey, for never fixing it and for sitting out for 5 years just laying flat with sun going over and just dust collecting on it, it's held up pretty damn well for an oil pastel work. All right, so oil pastel is definitely a durable medium. You got to be a little careful with it. It's obviously not as durable as oil paint or acrylic paint, but I think more durable than, say, pastel work. All right, it just takes a long time to dry out. A good 2 years, maybe even longer. This has been sitting out for 5 years. I don't know at what time it finally dried out. Maybe it was dried out after a couple years, but I just pulled it out for the first time today, and I'm pleasantly surprised how well it's held up. Okay, and again, when you're working with your oil pastels, think about the thickness of the paper. You saw that thin paper here on one of these, and you can see the oil kind of bleaching through, and I don't know, I don't feel good about that. I like more the thicker stuff. So pastel mat's good paper, Arches cold press oil paper is good paper. Anything with like 140 pound or up, it's going to be a nice thick durable paper when you go into your art store. Just making sure it's a nice thick durable paper. I like it, 140 pounds or higher when I look at the weight of the paper. Okay, all right guys, anyway, that's it. I just wanted to show you these cook videos. Hopefully this won't be too long. I'm going to go ahead and upload this. Hope you guys having a good day, and leave me any comments. Thanks. All right, goodbye.